Hello, everyone.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Courageous
Okay.
Custody, Real Stories, Real Solutions. We are your weekly dose of empowerment and practical guidance.
Yeah, we understand the unique challenges parents face in the family courtroom. Our mission is to equip you with the strategic thinking and emotional support you need to navigate this very difficult journey with strength and resilience. So, if you're a protective parent facing a seemingly impossible custody battle, you're not alone.
Yeah, so every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, we'll go live on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, bringing you real stories. You'll hear stories about courageous parents who have walked in your shoes and emerged victorious in big ways and in small. And their journeys will inspire you and offer invaluable insights. You'll get expert advice and get practical strategies from us to help you advocate for your children and manage your trauma as you go through your custody case.
Don't miss out on getting your own insights from our conversations. We'd love for you to jump in with your own comments, your own feedback as we chat so that we can hear from you too. Because remember, courage is contagious. And together, we can rewrite the narrative for protective parents. So let's
Let's
dive in.
dive in.
Many of you know that I'm the creator of the Custody Blueprint.
Yes, and I'm Atra Tarfa, an IFS trained trauma recovery coach.
We want to make sure that it's clear that we're not giving legal advice or therapy.
And we want to make sure that if you do feel triggered in any way, we want to make sure you take care of yourself. So step away and join us in the conversation. So today's topic, Renee, we see this a lot, so I'm excited about this topic. How anxiety and other issues show up in the courtroom and how to handle them. This is Mental Health Awareness Month, so we are continuing on that theme all of this month in May.
Yeah, we've been talking about since the beginning of May, combating mental instability allegations of various kinds in family court and what that looks like. So check out our past videos. YouTube is a good spot to see all of the videos on that. Or Atra, I know you're on your Instagram, people have a chance to go back and review some of the stuff we've gone through about mental instability allegations all this month.
Yeah, and so for today's case, we're going to talk about a bit about Catherine. And she was a stay-at-home mom who had a few part-time jobs, and she was a displaced stay-at-home mom. And so her ex used lies and power and, dare I say, a bit of corruption
Mm-hmm.
to
You
take
dare
away,
say it.
dare I say that? Yeah, to take
Yep.
all four of her daughters away from her. And
Yep.
he had filed a motion after motion after motion after
Yep.
motion. For it just was never ending. And I attended one of her hearings, and what I saw was a woman in active trauma.
Mm.
Right? What I saw was a woman who was feeling all of the stress and worry and fear and outrage and dismissiveness, and really someone who wanted to really be listened to and heard and wasn't getting that.
Mm.
Right? Wasn't feeling validated, wasn't feeling listened to, and someone who was experiencing people treating her in a condescending tone, in a condescending manner. And I saw her react to that in ways that were not in her favor. Right?
Yeah.
I saw her react to that with combativeness, what the court perceives as what could be aggressive tone, sarcasm. There was a lost train of thought. So it could be seen as someone who can't gather their thoughts or handle themselves well under pressure. So how are we going to trust you with a child?
Right.
Yeah, there's just a lot. So, I mean, appearing in court is so nerve-wracking, even if you're the one who is bringing the motion.
Oh, very much so, yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's just really difficult no matter what. Courtrooms are just places that feel really intimidating.
Mm.
And anxiety, fear, even anger, they're all common emotions that parents experience in the courtroom, let alone dealing with the reason why they are there.
Yeah.
And sometimes our moms have pre-existing anxiety. And
Of
so
course. Yeah.
we want to talk about how you can manage those while also advocating for yourself in the courtroom.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, what anxiety looks like in the courtroom? Let's face it, the courtroom is intimidating, like I said. There's a lot of unfamiliar territory, there's a lot of legal jargon that's used, and there's a lot of pressure to perform under a judge's scrutiny and under the scrutiny and sort of eyes of the abuser,
Yeah.
right? That's really hard. So, it's perfectly normal to feel anxious in that environment. And for those people that have suffered trauma, it can be extremely overwhelming.
You talk about how there and that is a big thing I find, with clients is, it's one thing to talk to your abuser on OFW or Talking Parents or whatever, email, text, whatever. It's another thing to be in the same room as this person.
It's awful. I mean, there's no other word to describe it, right? This is somebody who you've decided to, our protective moms have said, okay, enough is enough. And it ends up costing them access to their children.
Yeah.
So it's making a choice between my safety, right?
Yeah.
Or being in relationship with my kids. And that's when these moms experience the weaponizing of the court system against them.
Mhm.
And it's especially traumatizing for these moms because you feel that justice is a place that's going to be safe and protect you.
Mm.
And so you're not protected within the four walls of your home. You make a choice to save yourself and to protect yourself and to keep you alive, right? In some situations. And then you go into the space of, okay, I'm now here. They're going to see how badly I was treated.
They're gonna
And
protect,
they're
right?
going to protect me too. And oftentimes that's not what we see.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's
That's not
hard
what,
to get that justice that you speak of. It's hard to get that protection, really.
absolutely. And so we see oftentimes our protective parents seeking protection from the court system and asking and sort of expecting an advocacy from the court, from the bench, to
Mhm.
protect them from this abuser. And sometimes that happens. I'm not going to say that sometimes it doesn't happen, because sometimes it does.
It does.
And
Yeah.
I've seen it happen, but we've seen it not happen more often.
Right. Right.
We've seen it weaponized against them. And for someone who is in active trauma, a protective mom like that, we're talking about physical symptoms, right? Heart beating really fast can lead to panic attacks, loss of breath,
Mhm.
a freeze response. They're in that fight flight state. We can see sweating.
Mhm.
We can see that, you know, um, if, and, don't let the client be someone who's neurodivergent, right? That's somebody who's got a lot of energy and may need movement, who may sort of
Yeah.
disassociate for a second and come
Yeah.
back to protect themselves and come back in, but yet then, oh, hello, were you paying attention to what I just asked of you? So there's a lot that our protective parents can experience given their intergenerational trauma history, given the history of the case that they're experiencing. So the actual active trauma that they're in now, and already the internal clock and critic that's going on telling them that they may have made a bad decision and how could they and what a bad mom they are. Like, all of these things are this complex emotions are coming up. We're dealing with fear, we're dealing with anger, grief, outrage, all of this, hopelessness. And when we have that, it manifests as anxiety because there's a burden of worry. Because
Mm.
all these moms want to do is be the best mom that they can and be with their kids and make sure their
Yes.
kid is raised and protected and has a wonderful life. But when
Mhm.
that's taken away, or when that's threatened, that worry can then sort of impact all of these emotions. And then a part of us then goes to try to control the situation,
Mm.
what we
Mm.
saw,
Mhm.
right, in the hearing, which is what we saw.
Yeah.
Or we'll see a shift, right? We'll see a withdrawal, we'll see a shutting down, we'll see a person in the courtroom, their access to clear thought is
Mhm.
impacted. So they may not be able to voice. We'll see sort of even women have a lockup in their throat where what they say won't even come out, clouds the thinking, makes it hard to remember details. I remember in that case just being asked, right? So what about this? What happened on this date at this time? Or do you have the last time that happened? Oh no. Even though everything could be laid out, because there's such an overwhelm happening, you could have the most organized notes in the world, and that anxiety and that worry can rush in and flood. And how that is all perceived has a huge impact on your case in the courtroom, does it not, Renee?
It does. The way that you're perceived by the court when these things are happening, it's not great, right? You're describing a lot of what you see, and whenever I attend clients' hearings, whenever I'm able to, we do sometimes see a lot of this stuff manifesting. It plays into the abusive parents narrative. That's the first and foremost thing. Then, if one were not to believe if one were to say, well, I'm going to come to my own conclusion, then the judge is what they need to see is someone who looks capable and concerned. That's really what I'm always telling parents to go in. It's like the way that you should come off is capable and concerned about what's going on with the other parent, right? But that's not what's coming off of it. It's just not possible for that to come off of someone who is showing that anxiety. And it'll also just throw you off when it's your turn to speak, right? So when they need to just think about what they're hearing and how to possibly help their lawyer, right? Because the other side's presenting, the other side's got something. It doesn't give someone who's in a state of panic, a state of anxiety, doesn't give them the space to be able to ascertain what's going on and how to pick on things where it's kind of like, okay, that's not true. That's not true. Well, we have proof of that. We can talk about that. I can talk about that. It's my turn. They're in a haze. So it's hard for them to do that.
Yeah, it's that desperation that can show up of trying to do the right thing.
Yeah. Well, and I would venture, I would even venture it's more than trying to do the right thing. I would venture that it is, if you're in family court, these clients are trying to save their children, trying to minimize the abuse. The court is going to allow the child too many times to be with their abuser because the abuser looks great in court, right? No anxiety showing up for them, but often, not always. I've attended a hearing recently where that was not the case, but it makes it so that they're just thinking about that their kids are going to be exposed to this other person, right?
Yeah, and so when I say try to do the right thing, I'm hearing some of our clients come in, and it's like, it just happened today, right? It happened today. It was, I just want to make sure that I'm saying the right thing, doing the right thing. I just want to make sure that I say
Mhm. Yeah.
what is truly real, and not say the wrong thing. There's this guilt that they're already feeling, right? And I'm trying to, at my best, make sure my kid has the best relationship with this parent that they know has been abusive, but still trying to show up capable and concerned. And
Right.
what does that look like without, making it seem in any way that you're aggressive or that
Mhm.
you're incapable.
So what
And
you're saying is that they define that as the right thing to say that way.
yes,
Like yeah, I
yes,
agree with that. Yeah,
yes, that's
I see that
exactly what
too.
it is.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And then there's a worry about that, right? That adds to the anxiety. And so we've got this hypervigilance and this rumination that can occur that we were talking about earlier as far as that pre-anxiety. So what
yeah.
can they do to prepare?
Yeah,
And
I
how
mean, there's, we've talked so much, especially over these past few episodes about, some of the things like, preparing, and we're talking about these bigger concepts. But if we really drill down into what is going on the morning that you wake up, you're on your way to court, you're sitting in the courtroom. If we really focus just on that, then we still have to say that there are some things that come into that, right? We've talked a lot about it, but you want to have the knowledge. For example, you want to be familiar with your case. You got to be familiar with what we see inside and what we saw, as a matter of fact, in a hearing recently, was, and I think this was Catherine, as a matter of fact, was just a lack of familiarity with her own motion, right? Where it's like, you have to be prepared. We're always telling the moms, be prepared with all that stuff. So you want that preparation to be in that courtroom with you. Some of the things, though, that are more tactical, that have entirely to do with court, is researching the procedures so that it doesn't feel so there's such a lack of familiarity, really getting used to the legal terms, really reading the legal letters that are going back and forth. Not enough moms practice what they're going to say beforehand. I'm a big fan of parents practicing exactly what they're going to say and how they're going to say it. It's still not going to come off that way, but it's going to be really close, and you're going to be saying what you want to say. And then I'm a huge fan of when you're allowed to sit in the courtroom while court is session with your judge and see how they are with the other, with these other cases before you ever get to your case, right? 1-2 weeks before, a month before, when you carve out time to just sit there and watch how this judge works. Now, the day of, plan your day. You got to plan your outfit, plan your transportation, plan your meals in advance, have a routine so that last minute stress isn't there. We find that that's incredible. I have this 1 week before routine with clients that a lot of them don't do. And the ones who do are kind of like, when you told me this routine, Renee, I was all like, I'm not going to do that. And I actually just tried it. I cannot believe how clear-headed I was, just like you said. And it's the kind of stuff people don't want to hear, right? I'm basically saying, what is my week before routine? It's things like no dairy, no gluten. Have at it afterwards. I'm not against, go get your Ben and Jerry's, go get whatever you want, but no, as much water as you can handle each day. And one of your meals each day should be a salad, and you should be getting at least 8 hours of sleep each night, right? Those are some of the things. And my clients are always kind of like, what are you talking about? Right? I'm not going to do that. And then the clients who do are kind of like, I cannot believe what that did for me in court. So it's good to kind of do that. I like that week before. And then I like for there to be a comfort kit. Bring your tote bag.
I love that. Yeah.
Calm your nerves, like aromatherapy sprays, the real stuff, not the perfumey stuff, stress balls, calm music on your phone for breaks. And then here's like the stuff that I know we've talked a little bit about, but having like, one of the things I really love is with acupressure, where you find that spot sort of right at the apex of like where your thumb, you can feel, if everybody who's, go ahead and do it now, it's like there's all this meaty kind of stuff, and then there's where the bones meet into a V. That's an acupressure spot. So I always take my thumb, and you have to press pretty hard, but when you do that and you just kind of rub it around a little bit like that, and you just keep doing that, and then you can switch to the other hand. It's okay to do both hands, and just keep switching back and forth with your hands in your lap or whatever. It's incredible what it does for your clarity of thought, right? And taking away pain and calming and that type of thing. Having a bracelet with like beads or gems that you can focus on. Having that stone, that flat little touch stone that's in one of your loose pockets that you can, just that tactile feeling of rubbing against it, especially your sensitive fingertips, brings you grounded, gets you centered. Those are just some of my tips. I know you've got tips too.
Yeah, we have some. If you find yourself being someone who's likes a lot of movement, has a lot of energy, that anxiety manifests that way, copper is a really great material to have. To sort of helps with discharging and holding that energy.
I love that. I love that.
No, we don't think about that a lot, and oftentimes people are like, "How am I going to hold on to copper?" But copper is really helpful, and you'd be surprised, but it does help. And what I really love to share is, practicing diaphragmatic breathing. Just practicing expanding your belly as you breathe in, belly out. And as you exhale, bring that belly all the way back to your spine, right? And doing that 3 to 5 times can really help calm your nervous system, bring that heart rate down, and it does help settle your stomach a bit too. Diaphragmatic breathing is
It's so
amazing.
powerful, though. I love it. And I just did it while you were describing it, and I wasn't even in a heightened state. And I actually just feel so much more relaxed. So I know people get tired of hearing just breathe, just breathe, just breathe. But the truth is, what you described is exactly like when you do that, what a difference it makes.
Yes, that particular style of breathing, right? Like where you're expanding your belly out. And it took me a while. I don't know about you, Renee, but it took me a while to get used to that
Yes.
because it's contrary to how do we typically breathe. We typically breathe
Yeah.
in our chest, right? In and out, and it's more chest based. But if we use our diaphragm
Mhm.
and we start practicing breathing that way, we'll notice a significant reduction in stress and anxiety.
Yeah.
And there's science to back all of that up. And if your anxiety is really, really severe, we're going to ask you to really consider talking to a therapist, find yourself a trauma recovery coach, someone who can provide that safe space and give you coping mechanisms that are tailored to specifically you and support you on the day of.
Yeah. And I always feel like it's important that we, and you know this so well, but what we have found is that just talk therapy can even bring the trauma back. So there's nothing wrong with talk therapy. I come from a family of talk therapists, but there's a place for that. And when there's trauma, I always am telling clients, you gotta find somebody who is deeply certified in a technique of some kind that truly works, not something that's just being touted, but something that, like Bessel van der Kolk talks about or something where these things move the needle, right, on your
Yeah.
anxiety.
100%. And something that, trauma is stored in the body. And so someone who is aware of that and maybe can provide and have an awareness of when it's safe to take you into your body and when it's appropriate to pull you out of your body and
Yeah.
maybe get you focused on something around the room and not something that is, keeping you in your body. Because oftentimes being in your body was unsafe, right? So there has to be someone who has an awareness of that. So we're going to give you some tips for managing your anxiety during your court appearance. We want you to focus on your breathing, right? The other thing about doing that is using positive self-talk.
Mhm.
We have
Yes.
our default mode network, which is the areas of our brain. There's different brain regions that all come together and they help us sort of have time, like being able to know what we're speaking about and when we're speaking about that clarity that we're talking about earlier, that default mode network, oftentimes in that space, if we were raised in a space where that wasn't such a great environment to be in, there wasn't a lot of positive self-talk, it might be difficult for you to do this. But when you are practicing that, or when you can be around somebody that actually can validate your experience and help you with that positive self-talk, that's going to retrain your brain. So we're talking about neural pathways here, and
Yeah.
specifically that default mode network. So it's going to help to remind you that you're capable, right? And that you're capable and that you're going to show concern for your kid. Also, we want you to take breaks. So
Mhm.
if you do need to, especially if this is on Zoom, right? If you do need to take breaks because you're feeling overwhelmed, ask.
Yeah.
Ask for a break. Ask for the recess to compose yourself. Maybe excuse yourself, off camera for a second. Just do what
Yes.
you can to step outside the courtroom.
I think
And
people are afraid to ask for that.
they
Like
are.
to be penalized for it. And obviously, I'm not gonna say take a break every 5 minutes because, yes, that would be when it's too much. I agree with you. You can work it out with your lawyer, right? They can talk to their lawyer, and they can say, "How often with this judge could we possibly take breaks? How do you feel about me leaning into those?" Because yeah, just having that opportunity to step out can be a reset button, I like
It
to
can
think.
be a reset button. And you can even write it on a note, right? Next to
Yeah,
your attorney, maybe like break question mark and have your attorney advocate for that if that's
yeah,
something that you feel uncomfortable that, you don't feel safe really asking for that. Then that's, you can at least ask for what you need with the person that is supposed to be there and on your side, right? And we want you to focus on the facts. We want you to stick to the facts of your case and avoid getting emotional. And Renee and I cannot emphasize this enough.
no, we cannot.
If they're asked a question, how many times, if a client is asked a question, right?
Yeah,
Answer that question. You
yeah,
don't have to go off into this narrative
we do
and,
not.
please don't go
It
off
hurts
into
the
the
case,
narrative.
yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Answer the
often,
question.
yeah.
Yeah. Because
Yeah,
what
I
happens?
think there's I
What do
think
they
what you're
look like?
speaking to here is this need to make them understand by coming in with details, and it's like, you know, I hear myself saying this ad nauseum to clients, but if it were up to me, and this obviously doesn't make complete sense, but it is a good guidance for them. If you're going to open your mouth, you better have printed proof of what you're about to say. Otherwise, shut it. Right. And obviously, there's times when you are telling your story when they're saying, well, tell me the story of your relationship. Nobody's grabbing proof and documenting during the marriage. But when you're talking about incidents that have happened, when you're talking about that type of thing, if you don't have proof for it, then I mean, obviously work with your lawyer, but before you start opening your mouth when you're on the stand, especially when you're being cross-examined, right? Then I like to say that
Especially
clients
then.
need to just keep it. Clients are tired of hearing me say thorough but succinct, where it's basically you're not really saying much, but you sound like you've answered the question thoroughly, and that's a good guide for them to just stop talking and don't spiral. It's easy to spiral because of everything
It's
we've
so
talked about,
easy.
where you're at, what's going on, the stakes being so high, your anxiety.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I
Yeah.
really think that that's a good, spot to mention that that's when we're sort of out of our body, when we are
Mm,
spiraling and getting caught up in a narrative.
absolutely.
So this is why it's really helpful if there is the mindfulness, if you're able to, and there's an awareness that, oh, I just answered that question and that happened.
Yeah.
And again, this is really good to do because of Zoom. But you can get maybe like a brush or something that you can like maybe just brush up against your skin so you can feel that as a
Mm,
reminder, "Oh, okay, I'm here, I'm in my body, I'm here to just answer these questions, stick to the questions, stick to the facts, stay in my body, and
yeah.
not get back up in your head ruminating on how wronged you were."
We were working in our very last one of our group strategy calls, and we were talking about having a mantra. And we were working on mantras, and one of our clients had a great mantra that just needed to go a little bit further, just needed to push a little bit more. And it kind of feels like, oh, a mantra, what do you do with that? But it's over and over again here. If that's something that you can put in your head, if you're even your head starting to spin and spiral, if that mantra, which we had a mantra, which was, I'm a fit primary caregiver with full custody of my children. And that was her mantra. That's what it ended up being. And what a great mantra to just remind yourself of and get you grounded and remind you here's what you're here for, and to almost visualize and actualize that with that being your thinking. Right. I'm not trying to become too woo woo on it, but you get what I'm saying, where it's like we're looking for ways to make it so that you are looking concerned and capable and not anxious and all over the place and spiraling.
I think
So,
that's great. I think mantras are wonderful. Loving kindness offerings are great.
yeah,
Adding a may I in front, may I do my
yeah.
best.
During your
You
breaks or while you're in while you're in
Yeah,
school. While you're
absolutely. There was a wonderful practice that I was introduced to recently. It's a forgiveness practice.
Mm,
And taking a break and saying, I forgive myself for buying into the misunderstanding that I'm not a good mom. Truth
yeah,
is, buying
yeah,
into the lie that I'm not a good mom. The truth is, I'm a great mom.
yeah,
Whatever that is, I forgive myself for buying into the misunderstanding of the lie of this, and then the truth is this. And I
it's
thought that
huge.
was a great practice.
It's huge, and just being able to just even now, anyone who's listening, to just be able to walk away after this and just say, "I forgive myself. I forgive myself," and it's amazing what can come up, and I think that can be a very difficult thing, but just starting to say it can chip away at this or whatever else.
Yeah.
Well, this is our last episode for now on mental health for Mental Health Awareness Month. So, here are some additional resources we want to give you in general. There's the National Alliance on Mental Illness, which is NAMI.org. There's the Anxiety and Depression Association of America, ADAA.org. And there's National Institute of Mental Health at NI, that's N as in Nancy, M as in Mary, H dot N as in Nancy, IH dot gov. Those are places where you can, where anybody can find resources, because we recognize that it can be difficult if you are in sort of a desert area in terms of finding health providers, I mean, figuratively, or if all of the healthcare providers in your area are just not really, they're just prohibitively expensive. So these can be some resources, and you don't have to be diagnosed in any way or anything like that, but there can be some resources there. Well, that's all for this week's episode of Courageous Custody. But before we go, thank you so much for joining us, whether live or on replay. We are always ever so grateful to have helped in any way that we may have.
Yes, and we have some great takeaways this week to help prepare yourself before and the day of and while you are in the courtroom. So we want you to prepare. We want you to pack a comfort kit. We want you to ask for breaks, ask for what you need, and maybe practice some diaphragmatic breathing the day of. So next week, we want you to join us again, 7 p.m. Eastern here. Like or follow or bookmark us so that you can get the notifications, and do not miss anything we have to talk about, because what we're talking about might just catch you right when you need it.
That's right. Don't forget to check the comments to get a free copy of the court appearance prep list. And you can go to thecustodyblueprint.com to learn about the different ways to get help, strategic help in your case.
Yeah, so leave your comments about your experience with the topic or any topics you'd like to see Renee and I discuss in the future. Wherever you're listening, remember you are not alone. Until next time, we want you to stay strong. We want you to stay informed, and we want you to keep fighting for what matters most.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.